Hey there and welcome back to Sims Sunday. My name is Pete and in this series we try to complete The Sims 3. And we begin today's episode with all 5 members of our household getting up at more or less the same time. First up is Patrick, who has barely more than 2 hours left until his shift starts, and so let's raise his fun bar with the Sim Life goggles. And speaking of raising fun bars, Paul also has to start his shift in a few hours. However, thanks to Chastity, he has a faster way of raising his fun bar available to him. While the two are busy, Ayesha has also gotten up and she is also raising her fun bar, however with a few computer games. And the only person not actively working on her fun need is Pauline, who's currently taking a shower. Chastity can now go back to sleep for just a few minutes, while Paul can spend the time until the carpool arrives with a round of writing. Pauline can then quickly grab something to eat. And with a maxed out fun bar, Patrick can do the same, and sitting down and eating next to each other will also slightly improve their social bars. Now Chastity is well rested, that means she can also start her day with a shower, while Pauline can already teleport off to school where she will put in hard work. That is because I would like her to get on honor roll as soon as possible. Up next is Patrick, who can teleport himself over to the science facility, and he also has a day of working hard ahead of him. And last but not least is Paul's turn. Over at the police station, he can now also begin a hard-working shift. Meanwhile, back at home, Ayesha has finally filled up her fun bar, and that means for her it's now also time for breakfast. And breakfast, that is what Chastity just had. She can now quickly clean up, then pay the bills, grab the mail, which once again goes straight to the family inventory, and then take a skill book to improve her logic skill further. With Ayesha, we will now begin another day of collecting. However, the start to that isn't all that successful. Then on the top right of the screen we can read a phenomenal message for Patrick. Apparently he has made a groundbreaking discovery, and as a result his work performance meter instantly maxes out, and that means he is now guaranteed a promotion at the end of his shift, so we can now set him to have a bit of fun and relax at work. With Ayesha we currently have nothing to catch, so let's quickly take care of one other thing. Let's have her quit her job at the spa. We have reached the top of both part-time careers offered at the spa, and I think with Ayesha it is now time to focus entirely on the collecting thing. And while she's doing that, we get an opportunity for Pauline here, fixing the boiler at school for improved school performance and some money. I think it goes without question that we'll take that. And now it's already time for Patrick's workday to come to an end, and as expected, here is his promotion. Patrick is now a carnivorous plant tender, that means already at level 5 of the science career, and for the next level we need to slightly improve his handiness skill, and we're going to do that right away, so let's also promise him that as a wish. By the way, over at school, Pauline's first day at school as a teenager has also already come to an end, and she's currently busy working on that opportunity that we received earlier. In the meantime, Patrick has arrived at the library and is now grabbing the handiness skill book, and we will have him read until his skill level improves. At 3 PM, Paul's day at the police station comes to an end, and thanks to the workaholic trait and all work performance requirements being maxed out, he gets promoted to level 4 in the law enforcement career and is now a patrol officer. Now the beloved reports become a work performance requirement. Luckily, however, one of Paul's very close friends is currently hanging out in the library, so he is right next door and hopefully more than willing to be questioned. While Paul is gathering intel, we can quickly jump back over to Chastity. She is still reading, but has now finally improved her logic skill to level 6. In just a second, she will begin to work from home, but before she does, she can quickly light the fireplace, as that will give everyone in the area a nice positive moodlet. Over at school, Pauline finishes her opportunity, no immediate results just yet, but when she goes back to school tomorrow, she will hopefully get a nice performance increase. Right next to the fireplace, Ayesha has now begun to work from home, and Paul has spotted another one of his good friends over in the park, so let's see if we can't get the material for a second report here. Now for a change, let's check in with Ayesha, because while Patrick improves his handiness skill to level 5, Ayesha has just caught the extremely rare rainbow butterfly. That is the rarest and most valuable butterfly in the base game, and that means she has now found 7 out of 10 unique butterflies, only 3 more to go. And actually, let's make that 2, because just a few minutes later, Ayesha gets her hands on a royal purple butterfly. That's another one she hasn't found yet, so she's now 8 of 10. With Patrick, we will now make a bit of an unusual trip to the supermarket. His handiness skill is where it needs to be for his next shift, and I would like him to do something very special in this episode, but for that we need some cheese. And 10 should be enough. At home we can check back in with Pauline, and no, her fun bar has not magically maxed out over the last few hours. She was pretty stressed out and I thought the sim life goggles were a good idea. She can now grab something to eat, while Paul has also returned back home and can now start writing a report. For some reason I was only able to write a report on one of the persons he questioned, but maybe that's enough already. Chastity is still working from home and Patrick is fishing, and that's what we needed the cheese for, because Patrick is fishing for alley catfish. And those are very important to what comes next, but I will get to that in just a second. Meanwhile, Pauline has finished dinner and has begun her homework, and now Patrick has already caught 4 alley catfish, and that means we can now make the switch, use the alley catfish as bait and go for the angelfish. And maybe some of you already know what that might be used for. We can then jump over to Paul, but quickly get interrupted by an opportunity for Patrick. Delivering 3 nice peppers shouldn't be much of a problem, so let's accept that. And then about Paul, yeah, writing 1 report apparently wasn't enough, so we now need to get intel for a second one. And what better way to do that than by rummaging through the neighborhood trash. Chastity meanwhile has finished her 4 hours of working from home, so she can now grab dinner, while Pauline makes use of something that has been unlocked now that she's a teenager. She will improve her athletic skill. That is of course a vital skill for all aspiring criminals, and the first few levels are pretty quickly gained. Now sadly Paul gets interrupted here before he can find some juicy info. So we'll quickly have him run away and avoid a confrontation. At home meanwhile, yes, you're seeing that right, Ayesha is currently harvesting Patrick's plants, as Patrick is very busy fishing. And with Paul I have decided to not give up just yet. He will now try the trash can in front of the other neighbor's house. And while he does, we can also already sell a bit of stuff he found earlier. After dinner, Chastity is once again working from home. I admit I really had nothing better to do for her, but let's jump back over to her husband Paul. And yeah, before even finishing the search, we have found another pair of sim life goggles. And I am extremely tempted to sell those for almost 10,000 simoleons, but then again they are probably one of the best ways to boost the fun bar, so I think we'll hold on to them for the moment. And now Paul is done, so let's quickly send him back home. Back home is where Pauline has just learned the athletic skill, and that also fulfills a wish for her. And I thought, well, we just got some info and an expensive pair of sim life goggles from our neighbors. How about we help them get rid of a bit more stuff? As a kleptomaniac, Pauline should have no problem grabbing the car, for example. And here we are, the car is now in our family inventory. We could sell it for almost 6,000 simoleons, but we could also put it in our garage and hope nobody notices. And while we are in the family inventory, let's also sell the majority of stuff in here. Most of that has come through the mail, I have no idea why, but we don't desperately need anything in here. At the computer, Chastity has finished another round of working from home, while Pauline has finished her homework and is now taking a shower. Chastity meanwhile can go straight to bed. With Patrick, we then have one more thing to do, and that is with the angelfish he just caught, we will now hunt for deathfish. We can only catch those in the graveyard lake after midnight, and I think we have 4 or 5 angelfish in this inventory, so we should be able to catch at least 1 deathfish here tonight. At home, Paul has finished his second report, this time on Grace Rosenthal, and despite him smelling horribly, he will now go straight to bed. We can then have him take a shower in the morning. At the graveyard, Patrick has gotten a bit too hungry to fish, but we can easily fix that with an apple and then have him continue. And here we are, completing the amateur ichthyologist skill challenge. In the process, Patrick has just caught a deathfish. And we can have a look at the skill journal. It says here that we have caught all 100% of available fish types. That is actually not entirely correct, because we haven't caught a robot fish yet, but I think the counter doesn't count the death fish. But don't worry, I will also have him catch a robot fish eventually. We could now of course have him go for a few more, but it's getting late, so let's send him back home. Back home is also where we can transfer the harvested goods from Ayesha back to Patrick. She really doesn't need any of them. With Patrick, we can now sell what we have harvested so far from the money tree. That is starting to pile up a bit and can always give us a nice boost to our funds. And then it's time for him to go straight to bed. And after a well-deserved shower, Ayesha can do the same. With everyone asleep, we can quickly take care of Paul's inventory, sell a bit of stuff from the trash can. But let's create a small special place for SimLife goggle pair number 2. And with that taken care of, we can now skip ahead to the next morning. And that next morning begins with Chastity, who can start things off with a shower. Afterwards, she can grab breakfast, and then our evil overlord-to-be, Pauline, wakes up. She will also start her day with a breakfast, while an incredibly smelly Paul can hop under the shower. With Chastity, we now want to raise her fun bar after a lot of reading and working from home yesterday that took a bit of a hit. And then we get the info that it is Paul's birthday today. Yep, that's right, Paul is already about to age up to an elder. Although I have some slightly different plans, but we'll get to that in a minute. For now, Pauline can already teleport off to school. Remember, she's about to cash in an opportunity there. And we now have no other choice than to wake up Patrick, even though he's not well rested yet. His shift starts in 1.5 hours and I want him to at least get a shower in. And he probably should also get something to eat. With Paul, we'll also play with the SimLife goggles for a while. Good thing we have a second pair now. His shift also starts at 9 and a filled up fun bar should definitely help him get that next promotion. Then on the top right we can see Pauline has cashed in her opportunity, and so after one day of school she's now already at a solid B, so we'll have her once again work hard today and then hopefully honor roll isn't too far away. Now, despite not having to work today, the next person to leave the house is Chastity. We will have her secure a good spot in front of the restaurant where she can now play for tips. Right now nobody's here yet, but the people will come eventually. Fresh out of the shower and fed with a tomato, Patrick can now leave as well. He will of course also work hard. And then last but not least, it's Paul's turn, and yes, the reports are not where they should be, but I hope the fact that his shift is rather long will make up for that, and we can then end his workday with another promotion. The only person left at home is then Ayesha, but only for a few minutes. Now that she's well rested, she will begin another day of collecting. And a rather successful one it seems. Just 2 hours into her trip, Ayesha finds a silver-spotted skipper butterfly. It does seem like she's on a bit of a lucky streak this episode, and a look in the skill journal confirms it. We have now found 9 out of 10 beetles and 9 out of 10 butterflies, so 1 for each remains and then Ayesha is finally done. Being finally done is a good point. Let's skip ahead to the end of the workday for Patrick. He has worked hard and has now earned himself another promotion. Now already at level 6 of the science career, his fishing skill becomes relevant, but with that already being at level 9, we don't really have to worry much about it. Patrick will now quickly take care of an opportunity that we received yesterday. For that, he has to go to the restaurant where Chastity has gathered quite the crowd. And here he is, we get a nice cash reward of 1,550 simoleons, and Patrick can now head back home. Back home is also where Pauline has already arrived after school, and just like yesterday, she's playing with the SimLife goggles. I also just promised her the Master Thief lifetime wish. I think that makes a lot of sense. And on the top right we can see Paul's workday has come to an end, and he sadly did not get a promotion. I don't think that's too much of a problem, we can simply ask his boss for one. But for now Paul can call the repair services for the teleportation pad that has once again broken down.
You're Jesse Madoo. Chess-me. Zam chess-me do.
While Paul is now writing again, we can jump over to Patrick in the kitchen and watch him prepare a dish of ambrosia. In the background we can also see Pauline starting to do her homework, but let's get back to the ambrosia for a second. After a late night fishing session, we now have both the ingredients, the live fruit and the death fish, in Patrick's inventory, and that means he can now prepare probably one of the most powerful things in the game. While the death flower is able to bring you back from the dead, ambrosia can make you pretty much immortal. Whoever eats it will get his age reset to the beginning of his current life stage, and well, there is one person in particular that I have in mind for that. And that person is of course Paul. Today he would age up to an elder and enter his last life stage, but I think he's not quite ready for that. I still have roughly 1.5 careers that I want to complete with him, and that might get a bit tricky if he ages up today. So here we are, we can see the age bar in the adult life stage has reset, now showing another 26 days until he ages up to elder. While Patrick is reading the handiness skill book and Pauline is still busy doing her homework, Paul can now call his boss. We have 2 days off before his next shift starts, so it's not terribly urgent, but I would like him to ask his boss for a promotion today. His work performance bar is almost maxed out, so that should hopefully work. Paul will now continue to write. We can see the teleportation pad has been repaired, and Pauline has finished her homework and can now grab dinner. And this right here is where things went a bit off track. We can see Paul has the small blue group icon above his head. However, the person he's supposed to hang out with sadly seems to be invisible. He has the group icon and he apparently can form his own thoughts, but we can't interact with him and therefore also can't ask him for a promotion. And while today we sent Pauline over in the garden to take care of Patrick's plants, I tried changing lots with Paul and his guest, but as you can see that didn't work. I also went in and out of edit town mode, but also to no avail, so let's quickly jump back over to Chastity. Her shift is about to start soon, so we can stop having her play for tips, and with over 4,000 simoleons she made quite a bit of money here. She can then eat 2 tomatoes to fill up her hunger bar, and we can send her off to start her shift. And with the amount of work we did from home, a promotion should be almost guaranteed today. I have not entirely given up on Paul and his guest just yet, and I thought maybe switching lots with a car might help, but as you can see, that was also unsuccessful. So we can end the group hangout right here. For some reason it still was a success, and then we can send Paul back home. And this is where things went off track, part 2. Despite just consuming a nice dish of ambrosia, Paul decides to age up. And that was of course not what I had in mind when I had him eat that. In the meantime, I have learned that ambrosia actually has no effect when it's eaten on somebody's birthday, but when I recorded this, I did not know that. So to keep things going in the direction I want them to, I just used a few in-game tools to revert the aging process. As you can see, Paul is now back to adult. What I did was, with testing cheats enabled on, it's actually possible to edit your sim and create a sim, and in there you can also set his life stage.
Sashto!
What we now need to do is change his outfit again, but I wanted to do that anyway, and while his everyday outfit is fairly normal, I decided to go completely over the top with his formal outfit. This outfit is unlocked when you reach leader of the free world in the politics career, and I think it gives Paul a nice way to showcase his status here and there. The rest I kept fairly normal. He doesn't really use the other outfits all too much, but yeah, welcome back to the adult life, Paul complete.
Maybe yo.
What we will now do with him is grab the Never Dull Lifetime reward. That basically allows us to spam the exact same conversation option over and over again, and well, that might just come in handy for a certain skill challenge. Because Paul will now start telling jokes to his mother.
Zumajib, Zamaduda, Nib, Va, Lama Suva Ziba.
Meanwhile, we can transfer the harvested goods from Pauline back over to Patrick and queue up a few more inside jokes. Those are particularly effective because they only take a few seconds to tell, so we can rapidly increase Paul's joke counter. Pauline can now take a quick shower. We can see in the skill journal for Paul that we're already at 83 successful funny jokes told. Then Pauline can go to bed and we can jump over to the end of the workday for Chastity. And no surprises here, a promotion gained and a wish fulfilled. Now a pop icon, Chastity is only one promotion away from becoming a rock star. At home, Paul is still busy entertaining Ayesha, while Patrick prepares himself some dinner. And now here we are. Patrick has told 100 successful jokes, and that completes the comedian skill challenge in the charisma skill. And because that was the last skill challenge in the charisma skill, we can now finally mark that skill off as completed. And while the ghost of Pete is haunting through the house, we can send the majority of our household back to sleep. Chastity, Paul, and their daughter Pauline can all go to bed. A very entertained Ayesha can sit down for some dinner. A short while later, Patrick can go to sleep. And then it's also time for Ayesha to get some rest. And with that, we can make the cut in what I think was a pretty eventful episode. Some things did not quite go as planned, but we did complete the charisma skill, we are very close to complete the collecting skill with Ayesha, Chastity is close to becoming a rock star, and all in all, I think everything is looking just fine. Now, before we end the episode, there is one more thing I'd like to talk about, and that is the eventual death of Ayesha. Once the collecting skill is complete, Ayesha has quite literally outlived her usefulness for this playthrough. And as hard as that sounds, I think it is time to part ways with her. And I would like you to have a hand in that. In the description below you can find a link to a straw poll, and in there you can choose which kind of color Ayesha's ghost is going to have. By doing that, you can effectively choose her way of death, and that is because one of the goals for this playthrough is to actually have one ghost of each color in the end. We already have the death of old age white one with Pete, so that will not be an option for Ayesha, but drowning, starving, burning, and electrocution still are. Have fun making that choice for me. And now that's really all for today's episode. Let me wish you a happy Easter weekend and say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.